Hello, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor and today we'll be doing the mid-year freakout tag or mid-year book freakout tag. But before we hop into the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you like all things books. Alright, so I got all of these questions off of Sarah Caroli's video, but I do know that this has been around for a while, so when I can find who originally created the tag, I will link them down below. But before we hop into the questions, I'm just going to do like a mid-year stats update from StoryGraph. So according to StoryGraph, I have read 39 books this year. My goal for the year is 50 books, so that puts me 14 books ahead as of June 29th. My most read moods were lighthearted, emotional, and funny, you know, as always. I've mostly read medium-paced books, which is surprising because I feel like maybe I prefer fast-paced books, but there's that. And I've mostly read books between 300 to 499 pages, and the majority of what I've read, 92% of everything I've read, is fiction. Last thing, most read genres are romance, contemporary, LGBTQIA+, erotica, and young adult. Surprisingly, fantasy did not make it up on that list, but yeah. And if anyone's curious, I have given 8 different books 5 stars this year, and I'll tell you those at the end of this video. So first question, what is the best book that you've read in 2023 so far? So obviously, like I said, I've given 8 different books 5 stars this year, so I'm picking what I think is the best in just overall, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This book is a young adult fantasy following Bree as she is on a hunt to determine how the magical world that she has recently discovered has affected her life, particularly the death of her mother. This book is so perfectly written. Like, when I'm reading a book, sometimes I'm like, there's some superfluous things in there, like there could have been changes or things like that. Every scene in this book I felt was absolutely necessary to further the plot, and nothing felt out of place, and everything had me just feeling the feels. I love the references to King Arthur and the Arthurian legends that she kind of reimagines in this book, as well as it covers heavy topics of grief and microaggressions that I think are done super well. And me being the romance girly that I am, there is a love triangle, a brewing in this book, and I fall on the enemies to lovers side. I definitely am Team Sel. But let me know whose team you're on. So next question is best sequel you've read so far in 2023. Now I really haven't read any series like sequels. I've started a few series, but I haven't really done too many sequels. I've read a few interconnected standalone series. But in terms of really the only sequels that I've read this year, it's Heartstopper volumes 3 and 4. These were my birthday books to myself. And if you're unfamiliar with the Heartstopper series, which first, what rock have you been living under? Because Netflix has launched this series into absolute stardom, and we're getting season 2 this year, which I think is going to follow books 3 and 4. This is book 4, this is book 3. Yeah, and books 3 and 4 follow Charlie and Nick sort of on a school trip in Paris, and then this book follows Charlie and Nick as they are navigating a tough time in Charlie's life. And the whole series focuses around the couple, Charlie and Nick, as they're sort of both discovering who they are and discovering their first love. 3, new release you haven't read yet but want to. Well, the obvious answer is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I don't have this book. I will probably wait for it to come out in paperback because I will probably prefer to pay the paperback price, and I prefer to have paperbacks. But yeah, this has been all over my For You page. Everyone and their mothers has been reading this book. And fun fact about me, if a book has dragons in it, I will most definitely fall in love with it. Like, most of the fantasy books that I've loved have had some sort of dragon theme or dragon-esque plot line, and everyone says the love story in this book is like super cute, and I love a little chronic illness rep. Love when we get some representation in there that isn't necessarily common, and yeah, I'm just excited because I just want to see what the hype is. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Well, I have absolutely fallen in love with Mile High and the Right Move by this author, and she's releasing the 3rd book in this interconnected standalone series. The Windy City series, Caught Up by Liz Tomford, is coming this fall, and it follows oh my god, was it Kai? Kai, and he's a baseball player. And from everything I've seen, it just sounds like it's gonna be absolutely beautiful. And let's just say, The Right Move was one of my 5 stars this year, and I absolutely fell in love with the characters in that. And Liz Tomford just knows how to create a spicy, romantic, like thoughtful storyline that tackles the topics of mental health very well. Question number 5, my biggest surprise of the year. So I was trying to think of like what caught me off guard the most, and I think I'd have to say A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow caught me off guard the most by just how absolutely fabulous I found this book. I've definitely been in my YA mood this summer, like young adult romances just have been taking over my summer reading preferences, and this book is just so cute. It follows Leela Reyes as she is sent to spend the summer with her family abroad over in the UK. She's kind of struggling with the grief of losing her best friend, losing her grandmother, and losing her boyfriend. But while she's there, she sort of kind of discovers how much life can change in the span of a summer, including her love life. And that's where we meet Orion Maxwell. And Orion Maxwell is just absolutely perfect. If you like food, summer, and just like budding, like young love, I would definitely recommend reading that book. Up next, favorite new author, debut, or new to you, Liz Tomford. I have to put her in there because obviously, like Mile High and The Right Move, I read those books this year, and they swept me off my feet, and I don't think there's anything else to really say about that. I will say I'm definitely excited to see what Lynn Painter puts out. I read Better Than the Movies this year, so that book definitely had me feeling all the feels, and I just read a book by Dahlia Adler called Cool for the Summer and thought that was absolutely amazing. So there's are 3 new authors that are new to me that I have found their work to be quite interesting. So if you love romance, I think those authors would be right up your alley. Number 7, newest fictional crush. Well, first off, Ryan Shea from The Right Move by Liz Tomford. In terms of adult romances, Ryan Shea, absolute perfection. I just like reading him and just how much he absolutely loves indie, and you can't help but feel some sort of attachment to him. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Orion Maxwell from A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. He is just absolutely the sweetest cinnamon roll kind of boyfriend you could ever ask for. And I've just determined that anyone who Kit Connor plays in a live action book adaptation, even though it's only happened twice, will automatically be my favorite. All right, number 8, book that made you cry. So I can't say that I remember absolutely crying in a book. I think I'm more likely to cry watching like a movie or a TV show than to like cry during a book. But I picked Heartstoppers Volume 3 and 4, like I talked about. These books go deeper into discussions, trigger warning for those who may be wanting to read these, discussions around mental health, depression, eating disorders, and suicidality. So I can't remember if I cried during these books, but I wouldn't be surprised if I did, and I'm curious to see how they address those topics in the TV show of this next season. Number 9, a book that made you happy. Well, I talked about it earlier. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Oh my gosh. So this book follows Liz Buxbaum as she is trying to achieve her best rom-com life with the boy that she was in love with as a kid. However, a few things go awry and a little enemies to lovers situation ensues. And I just loved like all of the music references, rom-com references, and this just made me feel all the feels. It's a super happy, just like get you in the happiest mood ever read, and I think Lynn Painter is just good at creating those feels. I know there's like a little novella featuring Wes's point of view that I would definitely want to read sometime soon. Question number 10, most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. Out of all the books that I've bought this year, I think this one, The Gifts That Bind Us, is probably the most beautiful book I've bought this year. It's by Caroline O'Donoghue. This is the 2nd book in a series, and I just recently bought it this month, or in the past month, and I haven't read it yet. But this is a light supernatural series that follows Maeve and her friends as they sort of navigate life in their small town in Ireland. And it also discusses a lot of things about LGBTQ plus violence, which is influenced by religious zealots. So there's a lot of that themes. I haven't read it yet, but definitely love the cover. Very pretty. If you like tarot, if you like supernatural, if you like witches, I think this will be a book that you enjoy. Number 11, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Well, I have a bunch of books on my physical TBR, but I'm not mentioning any of them here. These are just books that I know for a fact that I want to read before the end of the year. So first up, I started the Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher this year, and I plan on finishing it by the end of the year. So all I have left to read are Wrecked and Redeemed, and I've heard from everyone like Redeemed is like the best book in the series, so I'm quite excited to hear that. Then the next one, everyone and the mother has been talking about the Chestnut Springs series by Elsie Silver, and I have Flawless downloaded on my Kindle ready to go, and I'm just excited to see what that series is gonna give me. I know it's a cowboy series, so we'll see. As someone who lives in the South and has met a few cowboys in her time, I will say they do not live up to the hype in real life, but we'll see. And then lastly, Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It just recently came out in paperback, which is why I was waiting to read it. So I'm definitely excited to read that. Hopefully I'll read that before the summer is up. And I do have one book that I'm currently in the middle of reading physically, and it is The Meet Cute Diary by Emery Lee. So that's the book that I'm currently in the middle of reading. And obviously, as I mentioned, The Gifts That Bind Us, I will probably read before the end of the year is up. I mentioned I'm about to go through every book that I've given 5 stars this year. So first up, the first book that received 5 stars this year was the third book in the Love Light Farm series by B.K. Borison, and that is Mixed Signals. This book, in terms of all of the books that she's released so far in this series, was my favorite, and I think that Layla and Caleb's relationship is just so cute, and Caleb is such an attentive partner, and it just makes me so very gosh darn happy to see him. Up next, as I mentioned, I've already talked about this, Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter was my next 5-star read of the year, and then following that, I read Heartstopper 3 and 4, and these were my next 5-star books, or 5-star reads of the year, and it's no surprise considering I've given every book in the Heartstopper series 5 stars. Then after that, The Right Move from the Windy City series by Liz Tomford, that was the next 5 stars I've given. I've talked about that. Brian Shea, perfection, the spice, beautiful, and Indy is just a beautiful, beautiful character. And then I started reading the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey this year, and I gave the second book, which is all I've gotten so far, up to 5 stars. And I thought that book just had me enthralled the whole way. The first book I think I gave like 4.5, 4.75 stars. But yeah, so far that series definitely has me intrigued. So if you're looking for like an erotic mystery, more on the mystery kind of side of things, there's one for you. And then Legend Born by Tracy Dion. What more can I say about this other than if you are a YA fantasy reader, this is a must read. And obviously the last book I gave 5 stars this year was A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. No surprise what books ended up getting 5 stars, considering I spent this whole video telling you how much I love these books. But yeah, let me know how you would have answered these questions and whether or not we have some similar favorites, or if you have any recommendations for me or anything that you took away as a recommendation. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video.